Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Iarmhi TV Intercounty podcast for 2025, and as always sponsored by Dr.ie. On this evening's podcast I'm joined on my right hand side, making a return after a long absence, Shane Dunno from Milltown Pass. On my left hand side, closest to me, Pat O'Brien from Castleton and then Jerry Buckley, who we're all very familiar with. Jerry joined us again, giving his expert views on all things Westmeath football and hurling. Lads, we'll start off, I suppose, with the hurling that didn't happen at the weekend as such. For whatever reason, pitch deemed unplayable, and we can all surmise whether it was or it wasn't, but I think it probably was a help because I don't think Cusack Park is in a very good condition at the moment.
Yeah, it was called off, I think, relatively early on the Saturday, Ray, which I don't know what the experts say is the best time to be calling these off. But might have been maybe later in the morning worth a check. But I suppose as it transpired, and I was just talking off camera there to Pat, and we were saying, given the way it cut up a little bit in the football, maybe it was all for luck that there weren't two matches played there at the weekend. So I don't know what the experts say is the optimum time to check is a game playable or not. But listen, it was off, and it ended up that Laois had no game in football or hurling this weekend, so they'll be very disappointed. At least we had the football, but these things are tricky. It's easy to be the hurler on the ditch. I suppose you have to go with whatever the refs say, but it was kind of disappointing. We were all looking forward to seeing the hurlers in action, the first team that Chorley Bulfin had picked, but so we're going to have to wait till next Sunday, please God, in Corrigan Park.
Yeah, Pat, I know you would have had a lot of concern at the latter end of the year last year with the condition of Cusack Park, and with all due respect to the groundsmen and everyone that's down there looking out at it from the stand, so you were probably on the terrace yesterday looking at it, and it didn't make good viewing.
No, it didn't, but the only sympathy I would have for the groundsman there is that these teams come into Cusack Park at, say, difficult times of the year, maybe early in springtime and later from October, and they warm up with extended panels. I think this should be an issue that has to be addressed, and I did actually highlight it with Frank one day that if you put a clause into it that you're only allowed warm up, say, with your 22 or 3 players instead of this 36 to 40 players, because the whole place has been ploughed up. If you take a corner forward and he looks out after 10 minutes when the warm up's finished, he says, well, Jenny, I'm going to get very difficult to win a hurling ball in here tonight. So that's only a small issue. But look, as regarding the game on Saturday, like, it was -3 Friday night. I know myself, I work with the weather and agriculture and whatever, but I still was surprised that it was called off, and it was called off, I think, around 11:30. So look, I don't know what the issue was, whatever it was, but in hindsight, it may have been a little blessing in disguise for Westmeath hurlers, because we're in a division that is very tight, it's difficult, but in that division there's also what I would class as a little mini division also. You have the Westmeaths, you have the Laois, you have Offaly, and you have Carlow. Like, with the utmost respect, I think Dublin and Waterford are a step above us, and if you have to go to Antrim, it's always very, very difficult. So there's 2 games has to be won out of those 3, and we probably would have been at our weakest last Saturday. By all accounts, the panel is a little bit stronger. We had a few injuries going into it last Saturday. Niall Mitchell definitely wasn't even named at number 14. He wasn't even going to be there, togged out at all, because he's injured. You also had an injury to David O'Reilly. You have Darren McCormick was unavailable through his rugby, and I think he's freed up now. I think it won't clash for the next couple of games. And then you have only just back on the panel. You had Joy Boyle, who's only just back. The man from Galway, David Lennon, is just back. Niall O'Brien has come back.
Just with breaking news here now. We have heard it from the horse's mouth here. No disrespect to the horse. But Pat, go on. Go on, Pat.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
he has come back.
He was never too far away, as the fella says.
I know that.
I remember his very first debut for Westmeath. He was only 17 years of age, and he played the championship out here against Antrim and Galway. I don't know what the year was, but he's now turned 31. So I suppose maybe he needed a bit of an extended break or whatever. But so be it. He's definitely a huge addition to the panel going forward, and I'm sure Killian will be back. he's away just at the moment, but all rumour is that he will be back. So look, if it's played in 3 weeks' time, we should be in a stronger position. That's what we're talking about. Now, whether that's going to mean anything or not, maybe Sorsha will be quite happy with what he's looking at so far. Who knows? That's his call.
Yeah, but certainly, Shane, looking at the names that Pat has been dropping there, it certainly will add a lot of strength and depth to that panel, because looking at it, look, the team that was picked for last week, okay, with a lot of regulars there, new goalkeeper, which is something that we've struggled for the last number of years. And Noel Connolly stepped away from the issue with Jack Gillen going into goal. So again, he I'd say he was disappointing. He has played county hurling out the field, but his first opportunity in the goals, and we've seen it with the football. It's hard for an outfield player to go back into goals.
Yeah, look, I'd say Saoirse Bulfin quietly was happy that the game was off. There's sceptics out there say it was called off very early, 11:30, and it might have been an inside job to a certain degree. I don't know would I follow that conspiracy theory, but he did say in a recent interview a few days before the game that he would have liked a bit more time to prepare for it. It is, as Pat says, the Laois, the Carlows, the Offaly, they're the big contest for Westmeath in this division. And when we voted in as a county, we voted to go to this structure. It's very important we stay in it at least for a while and settle in some of these guys. Big names coming back is going to be a big help, but I thought there was a nice balance to that 15 that was picked. Just that strength and depth isn't there. Some of those guys would be more familiar with coming in off the bench, or they're running in there a year or two. You talk about Jack Gillen and goals. Jack's been in on the county panel for a while. He's spent a couple of summers away and come back. Look, he's a big presence. He's a good ball striker. Yeah. Probably struggled to find a place on a starting 15 or an impact sub out the field. So, and Noel Connolly, in fairness, I wouldn't say we struggled with him. He did no disservice to Westmeath. It's just finding a regular goalie has been tough. And yeah, Jack would have been licking his lips for a chance for the weekend, but with the panel getting bolstered by some of the lads coming back, I think all of these guys will benefit from it in 2 or 3 weeks' time, even if they end up being on the bench themselves because of it. I think that the team will be in a much better place. I'd only worry that you're going up to a wounded Antrim now without a game under your belt after what happened down in Dublin at the weekend, and we know what Davy Fitz is like and the mayhem he can cause in lads' heads about do or die and everything else. So it's going to be a really difficult trip to Corrigan Park for the vast majority of these lads. I don't think that Davy Glenn and Davy O'Reilly will be back just yet for next weekend. So these guys are going to have a kind of a bit more of a baptism of fire at the weekend when they do get into it.
Yeah, and there's no better place to go for baptism of fire, Shane, than go to Corrigan Park and go up to Belfast for us, Jerry. And it'll be, you've a wounded animal on one side, and we're going to come in with no game under our belt. And you can't beat matches, and I'm sure Saoirse would like to get this kicked off as soon as he possibly can, to get that game time into these lads.
Absolutely. I've seen Westmeath win up in Antrim in the various venues, and I've seen them lose, but I've seen them lose more often than win. And this was always going to be a difficult fixture, and as Shane has said, it's exacerbated by the fact that, let's be honest, Antrim got a right trimming from Dublin. And I don't know what Davy Fitz contract is up there, or what is probably a glass ceiling in Antrim, but I'm sure one of the things that would be hoping, it's early days, that by the time he left they'd be at least on a par with Dublin, and based on that they're not. And don't forget, Dublin were missing the Nafina lads after their All-Ireland win, so it's not even a full strength Dublin. So on that basis, he's a lot of work to do in Antrim. And as Shane said, I can imagine the team talk before next Sundays. You're not going to let this crowd beat you, are you, lads? So pressure is on him, and that means the pressure is on us. But I'm delighted to hear the news from Pat, especially, to be honest with you, the return of Niall, who's an absolutely quality player. And it's going to be a difficult fixture, but we have to start somewhere. And I agree again with Shane. There was a little bit of a balance to that team. There were lads I was looking forward to seeing. I don't know whether there'll be changes made ahead of probably would be unfair to drop anyone when they didn't make any mistakes in a match that didn't happen, but it'll be interesting to see, does he go with the same team again.
I think I'll ask Pat because he'd comment better on it. But Shane Williams was named at 15. That's obviously a tactical move where he's going to be brought back, or somebody is going to be dropped back. Shane's been a wing back for the last couple of years and performed excellently for the Gaels. So does that tell us something about where Saoirse Bulfin and his selection team are looking at a style of play, would you think?
Yeah, well, I don't know. My reading or listening on the ground was that the two wing forwards were going to do most of the tracking back and forward, kind of more or less like the football end of it. They were going to go back to support or defence and also try and come forward. You had
Robbie Grable,
and Peter.
Peter featured,
you know. So it's difficult for us to speculate realistically, you know. But on the team sheet, the only two players that might make a difference would be Darren McCormick will be definitely available next week, and probably Joey Boyle would have got a little bit. He got another week into him. Everyone else that we mentioned won't feature at all. Won't be there at all.
The new faces,
maybe for the next couple of weeks. You know, it'll be the off game before a lot of these will come back.
Yeah, you can't expect lads just to parachute in a week before and then go on to a team.
No, they wouldn't expect themselves. So these guys that are in their twilight years, they know that for them to perform, they need to have the groundwork done. So that they're not just going to run in and expect a jersey and off we go. They're not that type of player, but it won't happen anyway. So look, it's going to be a huge ask to go to Casement Park anyway. But like if we think back of it last year, it was in the nice part of the year, and Antrim came into Cusick Park, and we were on the crest of a wave after coming out of Wexford with one of the greatest comebacks we, both myself and Jerry in our age, ever saw.
Hugged each other after it.
Well, there wasn't too many others down there, to be honest with you. But at the same time, it was a fantastic result, and we didn't bring the
next. Well beaten by Antrim.
Absolutely. I remember talking to Joe Fortune after the match, and I said on the pitch, and I said to him, Joe, this victory will mean absolutely nothing by Tuesday if we don't get by Antrim. And that was reality. You know, so Antrim, I know they didn't perform very well last weekend, but Dublin are a force that need to be reckoned with going forward, especially with this new management. They play a very fast moving game. Now Crow Park is a place that if you're not playing well, you get terribly exposed. It suits the Dubs. Antrim will be wounded all right. 14 points, I think maybe 8 frees. Wasn't a great return for them, but Davy Fitz will have them primed up again. It's going to be a much tougher baptism of fire for some of these young guys than it would have been last Saturday.
Yeah, and like there's history there between Davy and Saoirse as well.
Of course there is,
so they'll know each other. And I thought interestingly when shortly after Saoirse's appointment last year, Davy defended him, where Saoirse had come in under a little bit of a cloud, and there was questions from some of the clubs about it, but Davy spoke up in the national press and asked the people to give him time, that he spoke well of him and stuff like that. So look, we'll wait.
Yeah, and I think Ray, the people on the ground that are involved in hurling, or like I wouldn't be known as a hurling man, but I'd know quite a lot of the lads that were in there, and I'd meet them up and down. And since he's come in, they've been very, very positive. There was changes on the football side as well, and I can't say early days that it was as positive, even though there was no fracas in the media about the appointment. It's just about a culture and a mindset, and I think one of the lads commented to me about the amount of time that they're spending with the ball in their hand, compared to maybe other regimes where at this time of the year there was blocks and blocks of running and S&C. They're doing it, but they're doing it with a ball, and it's more representative of what hurling is, and it's a skill-based game. Those little things can really just change the attitude and the mindset. So I think they're accepting it very, very quickly and are enjoying it, from what I hear.
Also, there's a big plus for this Westmeath hurling is Shane O'Brien is in the setup, and by all accounts he seems to be a kind of a major role in the setup, and he's the head coach, and he does a lot of the talking and that, and he goes down well with the lads. And he has a good reputation, and he had a good rapport before when he was manager himself, and he is a very good guy, and he seems to be gelling a lot of lads together, to say the younger lads and the mature lads and whatever. So it'll be just interesting to see. Look at as you said last week, and we have to be patient. And as Jerry said, it would be ideal if both teams could stay in the division, but more so Westmeath stay in this division, because like realistically, this team, when it gets to its peak, say when all these players are back, it'll be a little bit top heavy with age, and I would imagine this could be a last hurrah for a lot of these guys.
Absolutely.
So it'd be nice to try and stay in that division and bring the younger lads on. They'll be playing a higher standard next year.
Look, it's
going down
Pat, we know down the years it's always easier to hurl at a higher level.
Absolutely, but if you look at the group that's under us, there's a couple of teams. Okay, we would have ran into Meath and Kildare, but you also have Donegal and Tyrone. I mean, they're going to drag you down to a level. Yeah. No disrespect to them, but they will bring you down a level that they want you to play in the muck and the rough it, and it's
look, it's a credit to those lads that might have been on the fence for a little while or over the winter, and whether they would or they wouldn't. As you say, Pat, they're probably the wrong side of 30, but they're Westmeath hurling men, and I would imagine the part of the mindset is, help these young lads to stay where they are. That restructuring of the league is a big thing. Because the jeopardy of dropping down a division in the league is massive now compared to, maybe there was too many heavyweights in the last couple of years with the divisions we were in. But there is a level there, and as Pat said at the beginning, we're towards the top 4 of that league if we're correct, if we're at where we should be. And beat any of those we'd like to think we'd match with Antrim on occasion, not all the time. We have to get there, and the Waterford and Dublin are above us. Next year it'll be the same. 2 teams will come down and 2 will come up, and we have to be battling up the top half of that for the next 5 or 6 years, where hurling is growing in certain areas in the county. Not enough, but there's great underage going on in CBS at the moment. I know there's movements down at Lone. The county board had a development plan at the county board meeting last week about the investment in Athlone in both codes. So those are sort of things that you need Westmeath to stay where they are at least. Obviously Joe McDonough you'd be very, very hopeful for. And then the guys can go to the sunset with knowing that they've left it as good a place as they can. And that's very honest for them to do that.
See, let's be honest, we've been talking the last couple of years in that top heavy division saying, this is ridiculous, we're not going to win any matches in that. We should be in a division where we could win a few matches. Now we're in it, so let's go and win those few matches. Let's go and win them.
That's the truth. But just on Shane's point, you could finish 4th in this, or you could be 7th in it.
Mm.
There is jeopardy in it.
As I said early on, you have a little mini league in it, and the teams that you know that you are capable of beating on your day, you must be ready for them, and you must be prepared well for them, and you must target them. And the fact that last Saturday Offaly and Carlow dropped the points apiece, I'd say Offaly were more disappointed than Carlow. Like if we can get 2 wins out of the 3 against Laois, Carlow and Offaly, I'd say we were okay.
Yeah, we'll say
because that 1 point dropped from both of them will be awkward going forward. So, I know we have to go to Carlow, and I always thought Carlow was a graveyard going to it. Yeah. Always difficult. They're big, strong, hardy, but I think it's the last game.
It is the last game,
and you wouldn't know. Things could have been panned out. But going to Tullamore is nothing. I would rather go to Tullamore than nearly going to Cusick. There's a little bit more space. We have a lot of lighter fellas there that like moving around and move the ball fast. It's a lovely surface, and it's a nice, it's next door to us. It's
not a big travel, no logistical problems. No. You're over in half an hour from the town here, very little long with it, whatever.
Could I just ask there when we're talking, does anyone know what the story is with Darragh McCormick? Is his rugby over, or will he be missing for the odd rugby game? That's hardly a satisfactory
my understanding situation. Is that he's contracted with the college, Maynooth College, and they have some team,
Barnhall.
And they play. But I think last Saturday was the only day that would actually clash going forward. But in saying that, I presume if we were playing on a Sunday and he has to play on a Saturday, he has to probably play because he's contracted through his schooling and whatever.
There is a scholarship there.
Something, I think something.
But he is allowed to play hurling.
Similarly, yes.
Right. Yeah.
And he is involved.
And he has been involved
very much so. And just looking at the team, lads, quickly, just, it didn't feel and whatever, but, on paper, right, Jack Gillen has come in, the big one for me is looking at Owen Keys and Shane Williams. Like if you had just dropped out of the sky into Westmeath, you say, well, what's going on there? Because you have one guy who was full forward on his club team all year, and you have another guy who was an outstanding wing back, and he's in number 15. What's going on here? So it's obviously something that the management are looking at. They know best. Owen Keys, what we have there on paper is a very, very physical half back line.
Oh yeah.
Johnny Berman is a big man. Aaron Craig's a big man, and Owen Keys is a big, powerful man. You know, so we see. Are we starting to learn from Limerick? Is everyone going now for size across your half back line? Is that a tactic that's going to come into it, the physicality of it?
Well, I remember Michael Ryan talking about one of the times Galway played us in Cusack Park, and he says the tunnel went dark when they were walking down the tunnel, the size of them, you know. Yeah. So that's the way the Galways and the Limericks and these are. So I think, Paddy Flanagan, Lord of Mercy, used to say, give me a big man of equal ability ahead of the small man of the same ability, you know. So I think if you can put a bit of muscle in any team, I think it's the way forward.
Yeah, and I like the blend in the middle of the field, because I think they are head and shoulders the two best midfielders we've seen in club hurling last year. That's Eamon Cunningham and Peter Clark. And you have all the skills there. Peter Clark is like Billy Whiz, he's just perpetual motion there. Eamon Cunningham, an outstanding striker, always good from a line ball or two as well. So like in half forward line you had Davy Williams, only a young fella, Owen McCabe, another young player, Robbie Gravel then is there with a bit of experience into it, Dara Clinton, Niall Mitchell and Shane Williams in your inside line. And like it's a nice team, and from what's available to the lads, it's probably the best that we could have hoped for without adding all those other guys into it.
So would it look then, if Pat saying Niall Mitchell will probably be out, would it look then that there'll just be one change perhaps, and
I would imagine
maybe Darragh McCormack?
Yeah, but possibly. To me it would be. Look, I would have reservations about Shane Williams and Owen Keys also in the positional sense, but I'm not going to be anywhere critical whatsoever on that selection, because I don't know.
Yeah,
and the bottom line is these boys have been together, and by all things harmony is going well. Yeah. So I wish them the best, and hopefully they will play well, because at the end of the day, Shane Williams was a forward before he turned back into a defender, and he's a very versatile player. And on the ball, he's very, very skillful, and he's quick. So possibly
you'd like
keep the defence strong and your forwards mobile.
Yeah, bring him out, maybe. And get on ball, because he has huge pace as well. And just looking down through the subs there that were listed for last week, a couple of players, Pat, and I'm going to throw this in because I know you think very highly of David Hickey, and you spoke a good bit through the year of young Dean Ennis, and it's nice to see him after what he's going through, coming into that panel as well. So there is a nice mix in there as well, and I think all these young lads will benefit from when the experienced heads come in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in fairness to them, last Saturday when they did get the news that there was no game, they actually went to Multifarnham and they played an in-house match.
Brilliant.
So the day wasn't wasted. And they actually pulled in a few guys that weren't to make up the 30. They weren't available on the or weren't necessarily on the panel for the day. So they had a beneficial day out as regards, and by all accounts they were quite satisfied with what happened. And
as Shane said, Saoirse was looking for a little bit more time, so he obviously took good advantage of the break, not getting the game, and to get a bit of work into the lads, and I suppose everyone becomes more familiar with each other then. So hopefully we'll see it come next week when we go to Corrigan Park. Jerry, I think you're making the long trip up.
Yeah, please God. Yeah, one of the things too, and will I get my moan out of the way now, or I'll wait till later, about the lack of support Westmeath teams get. The football again, Loud came and outnumbered us. I'm just sick of this week in, week out in hurling and football. But let's be honest, we probably won't have a huge contingent of fans in Corrigan Park, whereas if we had played Laois at home and managed to get the win, it might swell it, because as I often say, the 2E hurled for the county, it must be very just be a miserable feeling for lads to come out on the pitch, in their home pitch, and the lack of support there. So just hoping a few people will make the trip. I know it's a long trip, but ironically, I used to talk to several managers over the years about the small crowds, and one of them I would have said, obviously Joe Fortune, I said, well, the only way you'll get a big crowd to come to Westmeath matches, take a big scalp. And we did take the big scalp in Wexford, and we had a good crowd the next day, but we fell flat. So it'll be just nice. Is that my moan over about the football? I just hate week in, week out, to see how few people are going to Cusack Park. Where are the people, the Tailteann Cup posters behind you, where were the people who were in the Market Square after that? Cusack Park is a couple of 100 yards away from the Market Square. Would you please find your way to support your county?
That's a fair comment.